Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Journal Club Presents, the IPL podcast. I have with me today Rajas and Rishabh, and we're going to be talking about the week gone past in the context of the IPL. Seven pretty amazing games, some close encounters, some rampant one sided matches, and overall an interesting week to begin with. So, yeah, let's talk about the first match first. MI versus CSK, what was touted to be the battle of the two champions, seven titles between them. Rishabh.
So undoubtedly, the El Clasico of the IPL has the highest viewership among any game so far, and the match to some extent did live up to my expectations. Unfortunately, the result not going the way I wanted it to. Mumbai did get off to a really good start with both Quinton de Kock and Rohit Sharma playing out, 5 to 6 overs, doing well in the power play. But then CSK came back really well. Both of them got out in quick succession, and the middle order of MI never really gave the impetus that we expected, given the big names like Pollard, the two Pandya brothers, and something that I wanted to talk about here was the surprising inclusion of Saurav Tiwari over Ishan Kishan. Ishan Kishan, despite not having the greatest record, was included in most of the matches in the past seasons for Mumbai, and he has had some brilliant knocks. The most spectacular one that comes to mind is his innings of around 60 against KKR, where he absolutely took Kuldeep to the cleaners. So I was personally a little bit disappointed to not see him in the starting 11, but Saurabh Tiwari played well. So that's all great. And then, unfortunately, despite getting off to a brilliant start with the ball with a couple of early wickets, I think Duplessis and Raidu played really well in uh, restructuring the Chennai innings. And unfortunately, they did go on to win it. What did you guys think of the game?
Personally, I think that one thing that has often been touted as a weakness that Chennai would show, but that has worked in their favor quite a bit the past couple of years, is the average age of the team. Something that we don't take into account when we counter that with the athleticism of the players is the experience that they have, right? We've seen that time and again players like Faf du Plessis, Ambati Raidu, who at this point could be considered a very experienced player, have like the ability to play through that situation wherein a couple of early wickets fall down, you have pressure, you're unable to score. So I feel like that has been the backbone of CSK's team player all the time, seeing as they've never really been a very high scoring side as such. I also think that in that game it was kind of different to see Duplessis actually take on a more supportive role while Raidu went at it. So it's very interesting that they're able to actually bank on him, given that they still have other big names who can absorb pressure, such as Duplessis, Dhoni, and so on.
But I think one of the reasons they had to absorb the pressure was because of the failure of the openers. And I think Murli Vijay's role in the team seriously needs to be questioned, especially in context of him, possibly holding up someone like Raidu to open or even Faf to open. And yeah, I think that that's going to be a question for CSK to come forward. But undoubtedly, one of the stars of the match, Faf, with his three amazing catches, the two on
Yeah.
the boundary, just the electricity he brings to the team is really, really brought, I think, CSK's fielding to a whole new level, and of course his batting. So yeah, I think that that game worked out really well. Maybe, but again, Mumbai have struggled with the early doors. They've lost, I think, 7 years in a row their first game. So yeah, we'll have to see how it goes from here on. The second match was interesting to say the least. Delhi versus Punjab. So yeah,
So
what did
before
you
we
think
go
about
to the
it?
second match, I just wanted to get your inputs on how much do you guys think CSK missed Suresh Raina in the first game?
I think quite desperately. I think that while Raidu is a good filler role, I think that what we saw was them lacking that sort of middle order boost, especially with Dhoni coming in at 7, or yeah, coming in at 7 in that game, and then 7 in the games after that as well. So I think that definitely there's a solidity that Raina lends that probably extends onto Dhoni, and then obviously there's the leadership gap. Not questioning Dhoni's leadership, but yeah, I think that it will play a big role. Let's see where it ends up for them.
Also, like just to add on to that, I feel as good as Raidu has been this season, he isn't a natural opener, right? He is someone you would want to shield from the new ball so that he would be able to, knock it around and stabilize the innings in the middle. So ideally, I would want to see Faf opening with Watson because you want your best two up there. Even though Watson's position may not be like solidified right now, I would rather have Raidu come in at 4 after Rana, which would have been the case because Rana is a solid player at 3 who has held CSK together. So that
Yeah.
would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So the next match, Delhi versus Punjab. And I think that this was a match that was touted as being the two future stars of India on both sides, KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant. And yeah, I think that it was an interesting match to look at. For the first 17 overs, the innings for Delhi was going absolutely nowhere. And then Marcus Stoinis just absolutely took Punjab's bowling to the cleaners. So yeah, what did you guys think of that match?
So I'll be honest, after such a high-profile game like Mumbai versus CSK, I had the lowest of lowest expectations for a game like Delhi Capitals versus Punjab. I did not expect it to, be as cutthroat and as exciting as it was. And to be honest, for the first 17 overs or so of the game, like you said, it really wasn't that entertaining. But then obviously Marcus Stoinis had other plans for us, and he was absolutely brilliant with bat and ball. He took Delhi Capitals to where they needed to be.
True, true. I think that an interesting aspect to note in that match was just the failure of Delhi's core Indian batsmen. I think that Shaw, Dhawan, great talents. But yeah, I think that the failure of them probably raises some question marks over how well they can do for the rest of the season. They are mildly inconsistent batsmen. But yeah, I think that the story of that match was the second innings. And what did you think of that, Rajas?
So when it comes to the second innings, right, we see that the Kings 11 batting lineup is dominated highly by what you would call technically gifted batsmen. So it was sad to see them throw away their wickets so easily when you expect a somewhat rookie in Mayank Agarwal to hold the innings together. I feel it was a very thought out innings because in the time when you're chasing a total and there's wickets falling around you, the impetus is on you to try and hit and move on before you lose all wickets, right? So it was very mature of him to, actually pace his innings, wait till the end before he unleashed an onslaught. So the main problem I also see with Delhi is that their spinners have not been as quality as I expected them to be. Like they're in a pitch that has so much to offer, that has so much turn, we don't see them using any variations. It's simply the stock delivery, not even tossed up at regular intervals, right? So I feel that that is one thing that Kings 11 could capitalize on, because despite losing early wickets, they weren't able to choke the singles and the doubles and like being able to knock the ball around in the middle of the innings. When it comes to the second innings, I think Mayank timed it perfectly. There was nothing more I could have expected. They might have fallen a run short, but I don't know. I think they may have punched above their weight anyways, given the situation.
Fair. Speaking of Delhi spinners, though, I think that there is one obvious name that needs to be mentioned there, Ashwin. That one over, two wickets for just 2 runs, and unfortunately getting injured in the process. Yeah, what did you think of that? How big of an impact do you think it's going to be? I think Ashwin is expected to come back in a few games' time, but yeah, how deeply do you think this will impact Delhi? Yeah, Rishabh.
Yeah, so I think he was amazing. I mean, like he just bowled one over and he was within the top five fantasy point scorers of that game. So I think that just shows the type of impact he had in the limited time that he was on the pitch. But that being said, how when it comes to how much it's actually going to impact the Delhi Capitals, Amit Mishra is a very, very capable replacement. I mean, he's the second highest wicket taker of the IPL in all time, and I think he's arguably one of India's best spinners. And I feel bad that he hasn't got that many chances to represent India because he is a quality bowler. Where they would miss Ashwin, I think, is with the knowledge he possesses of the game. But when it comes to just bowling, while Ashwin is a mastermind, Amit Mishra is still a brilliant bowler.
True, true. Just I think the last talking point, and I think the one that dominated social media, that run shot. Now, whether it costs Punjab in the long run, we'll have to see. But even without the run shot, you have to question some of their batting. With 1 run required off 3 balls, I believe the technical term is they absolutely Bangladeshed it. Agarwal falling to like the wide delivery, catching the one man on the boundary, and yeah, and then Jordan immediately after that, a horrible match for him. I think that probably does question some of the maturity of this young team, but I'm pretty sure they will bounce back as they did against RCB. But yeah, I think that that's something we'll have to see as to how it helps, how it progresses across the season. But yeah, I think that those are the two matches, both
Wait,
reasonably
just
close, one going
the
down to the super
last
over.
one thing, yeah, the last point, the one thing that I just like to address about the super over in short, right? So we see a problem. There's a recurring pattern of the Kings 11 being unable to pick good foreign players who can win matches for them. We saw Gale was great in the first season. We saw him fail after that. We've seen Maxi fail. We've seen Puran fail back to back. I fail to understand that a batsman such as Puran, with so less experience, has been allowed to play close to 15 to 16 games in a row, scoring barely 10 each game, right? When you're coming in at 3 or 4, you're expected to stay around if you're unable to quickly up the tempo. So I think that was definitely playing on his mind. So given his poor run of form, I do not feel he should have been opening or like coming in at during the super over. So I mean that's about it. There's nothing to say. Rabada has been a pure machine when it comes to super overs anyway. Line and length was on point. So I think all in all, the Delhi Capitals had that sorted out when they decided to give it.
Fair. And I
Yeah.
think the other
So
point is how long do you keep Gale out of the team? And that's going to be interesting to see.
yeah, I've always been a big fan of Gale. Like even if age isn't on his side, if even if he doesn't run between the wickets like the rest of the players expect do, I mean, like on his day, he can single-handedly win you a game, and just his sheer presence is enough to send shivers down the spines of bowlers. And I think that's something that you can't put a price on. He's just such an amazing player to watch. Like even if you do not support the team he's playing for, you get excited whenever he's at the crease because this game could go anywhere.
True.
As two Bangalore supporters, I think that we empathize with that sentiment
That's-
quite largely. But on a last point, though, just to compliment how great Mohammad Shami has been. He's been great for India in tests, and today on that day, 3 for 15 in 4 overs, just absolutely brilliant bowling, an exhibition of fast bowling, in my opinion. But yeah, that was the first two games, and yeah, now we move on to what was game three.
Good. All right. So moving on to the next two matches, right? RCB versus SRH. So from a team which promises a lot and fails to deliver most of the years, we come to something called the Royal Challengers Bangalore. They open their account against the Sunrisers, who honestly have been very well known for their exquisite bowling lineup. So about that, I'll first start talking about RCB's batting, right? The first innings. So we expected them with the new ball. They have Bhuvi. We expected him to move it around. We know that Aaron Finch has struggled a lot with the new ball, especially against Bhuvneshwar given past series. So while they did manage to choke Aaron Finch, as Finch wasn't able to score, it was very mature of him, not to just let go of everything and take on the bowlers directly. He waited it out because on the other hand, we have Devdutt Padikkal, right? A 20-year-old teenager, a 20-year-old who has recently come into the foray, who genuinely not a lot of people knew of, right? He's a local Karnataka talent. So to see him actually be able to take on the new ball and such experienced international bowlers at the beginning of his career was very promising to see. He more or less looks to have cemented his place as the opening batsman that RCB were looking for, right? Secondly, we come to AB. After a fabulous start, I do not remember the last time RCB had an opening partnership that lasted all the way up to the 12th over, right? So, given that no wickets were lost, it gave Kohli and AB the freedom to come in and go for it immediately. We see that even though Kohli got out in the process of trying to make runs, it didn't impact too much because there was a solid base that was set by the openers. Then we see AB coming in and scoring 50 of 30, which is nothing special. We just have to sit back and admire his consistency over the years and his ability to choose whatever shots he wants to play on whichever ball. Right? Moving on, I'll let Sanket take over on RCB's bowling.
I think that RCB, one of the things where they've definitely struggled and it's become more of a meme now is their bowling. And I think that what they managed to do with Chahal and Saini becoming their two gun bowlers has been absolutely magnificent. Chahal tossing the ball up, getting those three very important wickets in the middle overs. I think that you have to question some level of Manish Pandey's and Johnny Bairstow's judgment, especially when you know that RCB don't really have any firepower in the bowling beyond Chahal. But I think that still Chahal did a fabulous job, kept things tight. I don't think that either batsman looked comfortable against him for a moment. And well, express pace Saini touched about 145, 146 on most deliveries. And I think that he's been doing a pretty fabulous job for RCB coming in with the depth, being one of their only bowlers who can bowl at the depth, barring the gift that is Umesh Yadav. But yeah, I think that they did a very reasonable job. And I think that Dubey coming in, bowling those 3 overs for 15, taking those two important wickets at the end, just making sure that Umesh Yadav didn't have to bowl anymore in the death. I think that that was an important thing for Kohli. I think that one point where they will have to make a decision is on Washington Sundar. Do you play him in the power play? Do you play him in the death? Do you bat him up the order? What do you do with him as a player? And I think that's something that's going to be need to question. That's going to be questioned by Virat Kohli in the matches to come. But yeah, moving on to SRH's batting, if
Just
it can be called
one
that.
thing before you move on to SRH's batting, just a slightly off-topic question. What are your thoughts on Yuzvendra Chahal's Googly? Do you think it's probably one of the best in the world at this point?
I mean, I'm not gonna make one of those comments as of right now. I still think that there is a way for him to go in the international level, but I think that definitely the one that got Vijay Shankar out, an absolute work of
Yeah.
art, was almost Warren-esque in the way it was played. But yeah, I will let Musti talk about Vijay Shankar, the 3D player that he is.
Right. So, still talking about RCB's bowling, actually, for once, the most memeable player, arguably last season in their bowling attack, was Mohammad Siraj. And he's definitely a player with a lot of potential, but unfortunately, couldn't perform to the expectations. And I'm sure a lot of RCB fans must have been happy to see him, on the bench for the first game. Unfortunately, Umesh Yadav seems to have taken over right where Mohammad Siraj left off after, despite he's had a couple of bad games to say the least. So now let's talk about SRH's batting lineup. Now, this won't take long because they don't have one. After Warner and Bairstow get out, you have Manish Pandey, who is a brilliant batsman. He is definitely capable of rebuilding an innings, but that's what he's meant for. He's there to rebuild the innings if the openers get out. He's not the type of player who you can expect to, completely go all guns blazing towards the death. He's not the person you want facing a chunk of your last couple of overs, which puts SRH in an extremely difficult situation whenever one of their openers doesn't, bat out 10 to 12 overs. They have Vijay Shankar, who's supposed to be, this technically gifted player who's brilliant, but in all honesty, I find it very difficult as a cricket fan to see this. I mean, I don't know. I just find it difficult to like the guy. I'm not a big fan of his bowling. His batting doesn't excite me so much. I wouldn't put him in any team that I create. Let's just leave it at that. I'm sure he's a great player though. And yeah, it's disappointing to see such a team that has so much promise like Sunrisers, a team that has won the cup before, being so overly dependent on their opening batsmen. And the reason why they've had so much success in the past is because David Warner and Johnny Bairstow both have been incredible. But you see these instances where they fail, and the fragility of their batting lineup is exposed. There's no one to come and save you. And that's why, so now talking about the batting, Mitchell Marsh was obviously a huge important cog there. We thought he'd come in and, increase the run rate. And unfortunately, he was injured in that game. And even though I'm not an SRH fan, just as a cricket lover in general, it was so painful to see him, hobble out when he was definitely not in a state to bat, but he knew the team needed him. And he struggled so much, walking with one foot onto that pitch and giving it everything he had. That was something really sad to see. So when he was actually ruled out of the tournament, I was very surprised that Sunrisers didn't opt for maybe an overseas batsman or another batsman in general to replace him. But instead, they opted for Jason Holder, who's more of a bowling all-rounder. And honestly speaking, I'm not sure where exactly he fits into the squad. Because if you're looking at an all-rounder, they already have Mohammad Nabi in there. If you're looking at a pure bowler, I don't think they're going to replace Rashid Khan anytime soon. And David Warner and Johnny Bairstow are definitely not losing their spots at the top of the order. So I'm not sure what he'll bring new to the team, but there's that. And I hope Mitchell Marsh gets better soon.
Yeah. And I think the other point, though, that just to bring it back, just the excellence at which Kohli and De Villiers played off Rashid Khan, I think that there was definitely some level of inexperience with what Sunrisers was bringing to the bowling table, and getting him off for 30, 31 runs without giving any wickets was a bit of a masterstroke. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, I think there was definitely a smart thing to do, and definitely something that paid off for RCB's favor. But yeah.
Just one thing to cap off with the entire match, right? If you sum up the entire Sunrisers' is onslaught, like their bowling, batting, everything. If you have Priyam Garg, who is the under 19 captain of the 2020 World Cup, coming in at number 4 when your team is in dire straits, you know your batting lineup needs a revamp. You cannot expect a 19-year-old to come in and change the entire fate of your game, right?
Yeah, and also talking about the Sunrisers bowling lineup, do you guys feel like it's gotten a little stale in the recent past? I mean, like maybe 2016, 2017, when we had peak Bhuvi, he was a force to be reckoned with. But in all honesty, in the last year or two, he's not the same bowler he once was. He doesn't swing it as much. His pace also has come down a bit. He's not as threatening as he used to be. And SRH doesn't have that strike bowler, that bowler that you're genuinely scared of. It was Rashid Khan, but we saw, RCB navigate him really well this game. Like you've got teams that Mumbai, like when you need a wicket, Bumrah's your go-to man. And when RCB needs a wicket, they can bank on Chahal. But I struggle to see who that is for SRH now with Bhuvi and Rashid not as impactful as they have been in the past.
True.
I'm going to stick my neck out on the line, and I don't think that SRH will make it far in this tournament. I won't go as far as to say they will be the eighth team on the table, but I think that they are going to struggle, at least without Williamson, and
They
at
won't be
least
the
without.
eighth team on the table as long as RCB is still in the tournament.
I think that's a fair assessment. But yeah, I think that it was an interesting match again. I think that once again though RCB got off to a good start, so let's see whether they can push it forward. The match after that, though, rather.
Correct. So moving on to the second match, right? A match which surprised probably half of this country. A good zero point 0.8 billion people would have been wondering honestly what happened there, right? We come to the Rajasthan Royals taking on the Chennai Super Kings. Now, for a team that has struggled so much, that has genuinely not managed to move any head since winning the 2008 edition, nothing was expected of the Rajasthan Royals. For a team that relies heavily on players such as Steve Smith, um, Butler, Stokes, and so on, who weren't available for the game, we thought it would be an easy walkover for CSK. What we did not see coming was the maturity that Steve Smith was able to show and the firepower that Sanju Samson possesses. We know he possesses it, but he has such an erratic consistency, you don't know when he's going to do what, right? So, to talk about that, first of all, Rishabh, like, why don't you go ahead on the opening by the Rajasthan Royals, the opening partnership, the top order?
Right, so they lost their opener Jaiswal pretty quickly, and then it was up to Steve Smith and Sanju Samson to rebuild it. Now, when I saw Steve Smith and Sanju Samson there, my first thought was these guys are going to take it slow. They lost an early wicket, but clearly Sanju Samson had different plans. And let's, without taking any credit away from them, Sharjah is a really small ground. It's not that difficult to clear the field. I mean, I think that game broke the record for the most number of sixes hit in an IPL game as well, which I guess is a testament to. I mean, the batsmen obviously played brilliantly, but it also shows how small the ground was as well. But you could see that Sanju Samson was clearing the fence with ease. His footwork was brilliant. His timing was brilliant. He, took Chawla to the cleaners. Haven't seen him hit like that in a long time. And as a Mumbai fan, it really excites me to see what Pandya and Pollard can do on this pitch. But yeah, Sanju Samson and Steve Smith played really well. And there were also a lot of questions about, can Steve Smith, the test match specialist, will he be able to play T20 cricket as well as he does? And I think he proved a lot of his critics wrong. Granted, he wasn't as explosive as Sanju Samson was, but given that Samson was doing all of the heavy hitting, Steve Smith pretty much just had to be there for him. And he did that well. His strike rate was still 140 plus. He still hit boundaries whenever they required. So I think he did a brilliant job too. After those two got out, there was a little bit of uncertainty in the camp whether they'd get to 200, despite having such a good start. But I think the 27 from two balls in the last over and Jofra Archer's exploits saw to it that they got to the score that they deserved.
Yeah. And I think
Like,
that
in
that was
all
interesting.
honesty, Jofra Archer just seems like a massively upgraded Kevon Cooper, to be very
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that was interesting. A point that I wanted to bring up in this match was the test match specialist Murli Vijay. 21 off 21 balls in a game where you're chasing 216 is just a no-go, especially when you have someone like MS Dhoni or Sam Curran or even Faf du Plessis waiting in the wings. So yeah, I just wanted to see. We spoke about this with the previous match as well. Does he fit in? And I don't think he does. But yeah,
Th-
would
That too
you
during
you
the
guys
power
concur?
play, when you have only two players outside the 30-yard circle and you choose to take that approach when the ball is being pitched up. It's not like it's moving around, the ball isn't doing much.
But yeah,
It's very painful to see him like this because I remember in 2011 to 2014ish, Murli Vijay as an opener was brilliant. He hit centuries for CSK. His strike rate was consistently good. He was, despite being a test match batsman back then too, he was brilliant for CSK at the top of the order. And I think a lot of CSK fans would like to see that Murli Vijay reborn this season.
yeah.
Because right
But
now I think it's just frustrating to watch him bat.
But I think the point that we'll all have to agree, though, is I don't think that there was any intent from CSK to win this game. I mean, sure, Faf fired and Dhoni had that last over all around the park, but I just don't think that there was any intent to win this game. And maybe it was net run rate. Maybe it was just commonsensical playing, or maybe it was rustiness. We don't know, but that was what I felt, and I think that that's what cost him in the end. Small note though, Rahul Tewatia. I think that those 3 wickets he took right in the middle order, honestly, something that Rajasthan really needs, because I seriously I'm failing to see the firepower in their bowling beyond Archer and the currently absent Ben Stokes. So yeah, that was good to see. But yeah, I still
Yeah,
think
I
though Rajasthan
I
have a
don't buy
long way
into
to
this
go.
net run rate argument though. I mean, this was CSK's second game. Net run rate only matters if you have points in the first place. There is no point playing for net run rate in just your second game, especially when you've got people who are known to be able to clear the fence with ease, like Dhoni. Granted, he said himself that he wasn't in the best of touch, he hadn't had much time to practice. But when you have people who have the potential to win you the game, you should go ahead and win the game. It seemed like from the 12th or 13th over itself, like they decided very early on that they're not going to win this game. And they just tried to take it as deep as possible, which is an attitude I'm not a big fan of, given that it was only the second game. I mean, so what if your net run rate is close to zero if you only have 8 points at the end of the season?
That's a fair argument. And just to cap this off, I think that one player we'll definitely focus on here, Robin Uthappa. He's not going to keep if Sanju Samson's in the side. He's not going to open if Jaiswal's in the side. He's not going to be your middle order finisher once Joss Butler comes back. And he's barely functioning as like a cog in the side in terms of, being the link between the explosiveness of someone like, say, Samson to, the explosiveness of someone like Archer. So yeah, I don't know whether he'll stay in the team. I think that he's supremely gifted, and I think that he was probably one of the best IPL players in 2014 when he was with KKR. Yeah, I just wanted to know, is he dated? Is that it for Robin Uthappa?
I think it has been it, honestly. Like, since the time, back when he used to open with Manvinder Bisla, that was an opening combination that it wasn't paralleled easily. Like with Uthappa, with all his beautiful stroke play, Bisla taking the attack to the bowlers, we've seen that Uthappa, like, he's never been in a position where he's like, there's never been pressure on him, that's the problem I feel that we have with Uthappa. Since the spotlight is never on him, he started to take it a little for granted that he'll be taken into a team. So I may concur with you when I say that his time has come. But like moving on to like my last dimension about this entire match is CSK's batting, right? The one aspect I want to talk about is okay, I get it. It's a T20. You don't need very talented, gifted, fluent stroke players. But you look at CSK, there is not one technically gifted batsman, right? You talk about Raidu, you talk about Faf, you talk about Watson, you talk about Kedar Jadhav, you talk about Dhoni. They're all very unorthodox players, and as good as their style might be, is that something they're missing out on? The reason they're losing early wickets, the reason they're not able to score a boundary on each ball is because they don't know how to play each ball at its merit. So, do you guys think it's a factor that they don't have a very technically gifted player?
So I asked you in the starting as well what you guys thought about Raina's, how much Raina's absence played an impact. I genuinely didn't see it much in the first game. Like it didn't even cross my mind. Like I didn't realize that Raina wasn't there, but I noticed it very heavily in their game against Rajasthan Royals, because this is a game that Raina would have loved, and it's a game that he would have thrived in as well. So I think his absences, and I think it really hit CSK fans hard as well in this loss, where they realized how much they actually needed Raina in their squad. When it comes to technically gifted players, I wouldn't say they're all not very technical. I do think Faf du Plessis is still, out of the four you mentioned, he is the most technically gifted player out of that. I think he's a very solid batsman, but yeah, I do think they are missing a piece in that batting lineup that just gives them that overall stability.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all we have to cover. Dhoni's
I
finishing is
think
something
one
we'll
other,
come to
yeah.
is in the second CSK match once we have like a
So
little
just
more
one
data.
other thing I want to talk about. As you guys said earlier, like no one had a lot of expectations from Rajasthan Royals, but after the performance they put up without two of their best players, Butler and Stokes, I think we should be really excited to see what they put up in the later games.
True.
I still think there's a very inconsistent side. I think that Samson's been good, but I mean, there's a reason why he's been good and not great. That's
Yeah.
to steal a Sunil Gavaskar commentary trope. But yeah, we'll see. It's a very interesting side. Definitely will be more interesting once Butler and Stokes come back in.
True.
So yeah.
Uh, Cool. I think that's it for these two matches. And
Yep. All right. So game number 5 was Mumbai versus KKR, and Mumbai finally registered their first win in the UAE in around 6 or 7 years. So that's comforting as a Mumbai Indians fan. Another thing that was really nice to see was Rohit Sharma's great performance in the last couple editions of the IPL. He hasn't, performed to expectations. When he's playing for India, he's arguably the best limited overs opener in the world, but he hasn't been able to replicate that sort of performance in the IPL. If I remember one of the commentators saying correctly, he has an average of around 20 or 25 in the last 3 seasons. And that's way, way, way below something you'd expect for someone who is one of the top batsmen in the world. So it is really nice to see him, get going. The way he was pulling Pat Cummins' short balls was just a treat to the eye. And let's also talk about Surya Kumar Yadav there as well. He was also incredible, up against the new ball. Quinton de Kock was lost early. Mumbai fans were extremely worried because Quinton de Kock was our best batsman in the first game. So we were unsure about where this innings was going to go, but Surya Kumar Yadav came up, he absorbed all the pressure, and his strike rate was 200 plus in the first, 10 to 15 balls that he faced. So that was, really fun to see. And I genuinely can't see why he hasn't got a call up consistently to the Indian T20 side yet. He's been the best uncapped batsman in the IPL for the last 2 to 3 years, in my opinion, undoubtedly. So hopefully he does get his position in the Indian T20 team as he deserves. Since, their top order did most of the work, there wasn't much work to do for, the famed trio of the Pandya brothers and Kairam Pollard. Whatever they did do didn't go too well, though. We'll talk about that later.
That, yeah. Although on a bit of a side note, and I think this is probably KKR's team as a whole, they spent big, big, big money on Pat Cummins, to the
Yeah.
order of 11 crore. He was their biggest, he was the auction's biggest buy. And I think a lot was expected from him, especially after the summer that he had. But yeah, I think that he got tossed around quite a bit to the extent where he wasn't even able to complete his 4 overs, 3 overs for 49. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think that KKR have to give him a long leash, but it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the UAE's conditions and how batsmen treat him. But yeah, coming to Hardik Pandya, and I think what is probably already the most memeable incident of the IPL. Rajesh, what did you think of that? The hit wicket.
Honestly, I mean, at this point, from a player that's expected to perform so much, it's incredible that he seems to create excuses of his own for not performing. Like, oh no, mera hit wicket ho gaya galti se. So like my entire problem is first of all, right? First of all, if I'm not wrong, he was batting to a pacer. If you're batting to a pacer, you always bat outside the crease. I'd fail to understand why you're even so close to the wicket when it's a seamer coming in at you. That's the first thing, right? Second thing is we see Hardik Pandya like initially, like say 3 years ago, with his ability to hit sixes at will, hasn't been able to replicate the same. So I mean that must have at some point been playing on his mind, right? So he's tried to change his game. He started like start running it down to third man, knock it around for ones and twos, and clearly he can't do that because what was that? It was a late cut, but like I don't know. Sunil Narayan would have played it better. So honestly, I feel that Pandya needs to revamp his game. He needs to understand what he's doing wrong. At this point, it seems like he doesn't want to acknowledge that there is something that needs to be changed. He can't always be given the free license to, hit out or get out. Because no matter what you say with that much firepower, if you're giving both Pollard and Kronal Pandya, there's some responsibility that you have as the team strike all rounder.
Right.
Fair. I
So
think that was a late cut that was played both too late and too early. And I don't think that Mumbai will forget that. But they won, which was a good thing to
Right, but I
see.
think
Yeah.
that strategy of staying back in your crease is something that bowlers adopt a lot when they're expecting the Yorker to come in. Like I remember, during peak Malinga years, 2000, early 2010s, I distinctly remember this picture of Dinesh Yagnik that surfaced where he actually hit the ball from behind the stumps. That was a tactic a lot of players were using to counter the Malinga Yorker by, going as far back as possible. So that's probably something that Pandya was trying to do. Unfortunately, he hit the stumps instead of the ball.
Yeah. But now moving on to the second innings, though. Interesting match or interesting innings, I should say. Rishabh, Sunil Narayan, Shubman Gill at the top of the order. It's a great pairing, something that can get you to 100 off 6 overs. Or, like we saw the other day, it can get you to 25 off 2. What did you think?
It's very fragile. I mean, when you look at their potential, it's brilliant. I mean, Shubman Gill was our best batsman in the Under 19 World Cup. Sunil Narine has a reputation for getting teams off to flying starts, but if you look at the other picture of it, Sunil Narine is a bowler who gets lucky when he's opening the innings, and Shubman Gill, despite being talented, is extremely inexperienced. So when you look at it that way, you have a bowler and an inexperienced batsman as your openers, the people who are supposed to set the platform. You can see how things can go horribly wrong from the starting, and I think that is what's starting to show. I mean, the experiment of Sunil Narine opening the batting, it's had its dream run, but what do you think it's come to an end now? Bowlers have figured out how to get him out quickly, and it's been quite a while since we've seen him have an impact at the top of the order, in the IPL at least.
I think that there's only so many ugly hoiks over long on that you get in a lifetime. And I think that Sunil Naran is probably ending his quota of that. But I still think that when you're coming up against uh, decently okay bowling lineups that do not include Pattinson, Bolt, and Bumrah, I think that Sunil Narayan will get you off to a decent start more often than not. But I think that the bigger issue, though, in this match, and I think Rajat will agree, that middle order
Yeah,
Karthik, Morgan, Russell, and you expect them to fire when you have 100 runs required of 7 overs. But yeah, what did you think?
yeah, all right. So, first of all, right, just covering up on Sunil Narayan, like, I'd like to remind everyone that as much as you think you can get them off to a flying start, the last time I remember he scored a 50 or 60 of like 25 balls was like 5 years ago. It has not happened for a long, long time. Not consistently, at least. So, I feel like, all right, I get it, you're experimenting, but at some point, you're going to have to, take that leap of faith and actually let your best batsman get out in front and play the first few balls, right? Another thing that I'm not okay with is Dinesh Karthik coming in at three. Like he hasn't played at that position for a long, long time. I do not think he is suitable to come and play. First of all, such fury firepower. I did not expect Bolt, Pattinson, and Bumrah to ever be part of the same bowling attack. Right? I feel that it should be Nitish Rana at three, and it should be Dinesh Karthik at four, followed by Morgan and then Russell. And on top of that, right, you have the like very experienced finishers. Morgan, Russell, Dinesh Karthik are extremely talented finishers who have won a lot of games for their country. However, I don't know, they have not clicked at all. Like their KKR's dependence on Russell has been visible for a good 2-3 years now. But the thing is, he still managed to pull them over the line. And we've said it time and again, what happens to the one game he doesn't perform? And we tell you this is what happens. Russell is also getting old. We tell you that you cannot bank on that middle order so much. As good as Morgan is playing right now, he is also extremely old. I don't know, he's around 33-ish at the moment. So my basic problem with this middle order is that they do not have a single pinch hitter apart from Russell. You cannot expect him to fire every game. There is not one batsman who can up the ante.
Mm, I think that's fair, but I think we'll have to see how KKR progress.
Right.
I think
So
that they have been a bit of slow. They have been slow
yeah,
starters,
while
so we'll
Dinesh
have to
Karthik and
see.
Owen Morgan are not renowned for just coming in and whacking the ball, I think both of them are extremely capable though of striking it like 200 plus. They're just not your generic come in hit sixes from ball one type of players. But that being said, let's just take a moment to appreciate the gem that is Jasprit Bumrah. He had a bad game, and there were a lot of questions around whether he is the same. He bowled barely any Yorkers in the first game. There were a lot of questions about him. Is he still the same bowler? Does he deserve that number one title? But I think he proved his worth in the game against KKR. That delivery to get Russell out was beautiful, and his economy rate was below 4 for his first 3 overs. Unfortunately, he got taken to the cleaners by Pat Cummins towards the end, but by then the game was already won. So no harm none done. No harm done, and it was a brilliant performance by him. It was nice to see him bowling at his best again.
And now on to the game that I think probably broke so many hearts in the city of Karnataka, or the state of Karnataka, sorry. Punjab versus Bangalore. I'm not going to focus on any of the positives on that game for Bangalore because I don't think there were any. But yeah, just a quick run through. I think KL Rahul, probably India's best limited overs batsman, especially at least in the T20 format. I'm of the firm believer that he should get an extended run in the ODI team and possibly in the Test team as well. But yeah, I think that that innings definitely showcased his maturity. 132. So yeah, that was a great innings.
I mean,
Raj, what did you think?
he's reached that point where he can easily forget replace Shikhar Dhawan. He's genuinely a far better player. I don't think Shikhar Dhawan has a spot as an opener in this side as long as we have Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul. I fail to understand why Dhawan is given that many chances, right? And like we've seen something very, very different in KL Rahul's game over the years. Initially, when he was at RCB, he used to be, the kind of guy he'll come, he'll probably score 21 of 7, get you that 30 in the first 3 overs so you can take it easy in the power play. But no, he's gone from that to probably the most dynamic batsman after Virat Kohli in this country right now. Right? We see him, he's able to hit sixes at will. He times the ball beautifully. He has exquisite technique. I mean, I really don't know what to say about him. We see that the Kings 11 Punjab is basically this assumed dump yard that the RCB sent all their players to only for them to prove how good they would actually turn out to be. Right? So it's not, we can't question anything specific about the environments they have. We don't know how they've matured over the years, but I genuinely think that when you have a top order that consists of KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, and when you have Glenn Maxwell back up there, irrespective whether they perform, it gives that mental edge to the side that no, it doesn't matter what happens, we can take the game away from you when we want to.
Yeah. Yeah, on the other side, not many positives for RCB from this game.
Yeah,
They
there
are
were some
used to
positives,
having.
right? Remember that first Virat Kohli? Oh wait, no, that one didn't happen. The second Virat. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
No, wait, Stain scored his first half century for RCB. That was the
Ribbing
biggest
aside,
positive.
though, yeah, ribbing aside, yeah, just a dismal display with the ball, with the field, those two dropped catches, probably costing RCB the game mentally at least, and then absolutely nothing to speak of in batting. I think that RCB are one of those teams that have one absolute brain fade moment every season. Uh, a lot of
Just
moments of
one.
those come to mind. But yeah, I think that they are a team that can go on to do better. I think that they have what is a really balanced lineup this year, but it's RCB. We really don't know. One positive though that I will take away for one brief shining moment when the sun was cherry, Shivam Dubey was the purple cap holder, and I think that for whatever it deserves, that was some news. But yeah, Yuzvendra Chahal again doing his job with the ball. But yeah, I think that it was just a match where KL Rahul just took the game away from them, and I think rebuild, regroup, get back together for the next game with Mumbai is something they'll
So
need to
I
do.
think KL Rahul's brilliance over here overshadowed Nicholas Puran's failure once again. What do you guys think about his position in the squad?
I
I
don't
still
think he
think that he should
deserves
have
one.
played Gale.
Yeah, like honestly, if you're letting Puran run, like a player who's come up onto the international scene 1 year ago or 2 years ago and hasn't performed in any of the IPLs and is coming one down, he's expected to score. He's genuinely, he can literally replace Gale. You can literally take off the one down Nicholas Puran, have KL Rahul open with Chris Gale, Mayank Agarwal slips into his normal position at one down, and it is all good. Nonetheless, so I genuinely think that Nicholas Puran has no place in this team. Yeah, I mean, for that matter, if we go purely based on performances, I don't think Maxi has cemented his place, but he is a far more dynamic player and he has given performances in the past. He's given those short bursts and his fielding, right? Nobody can compete with Glenn Maxwell when it comes to fielding. He just adds that electricity to your team. So a good fielder is never going to be like easily removed from your team.
Yeah. Definitely, though, one talking point, Kings 11's bowling. I don't think that there was a single weak link in that bowling. There definitely were some in the name of Chris Jordan in the first match against Delhi, but definitely nothing to see here. Bishnoi was excellent. The other Ashwin, as now we're going to call him, again, very excellent. Shami, of course, doing his job, and Sheldon Cottrell. I still think that it's going to be some way before we see the best of this bowling lineup. But yeah, I think that it's a good team. Good, like they've had a really, really good start to the season. So let's see where they progress. Yeah,
And
not much to talk
and
about in terms of
another
that
very
game.
interesting thing is, despite being taken to the cleaners by AB in his first over, Ravi Bishnoi managed to stick to his line and length. He managed to, he stopped tossing it up. He managed to like make it skid and stuff like that. And he knew where he had to bowl. He stuck to his plans and it actually paid off. So it's great to see that they put that much faith in a youngster and that he's able to repay it, right? Meanwhile, I mean, I see a lot of problems in the RCB side. First off, like as much as the hype about Dale Steyn is there, he's simply too old. He's not quick enough. He does not stick to his line and length anymore. So I genuinely feel that either Isuru Udana or Chris Morris needs to come in for Dale Steyn, which also gives you that extended middle order because both of them are very good pinch hitters, right? Second change, I think, is Josh Philippi. I wouldn't judge him too harshly. I mean, he was sent in a very difficult situation, one down this time, didn't get to bat much in the first game. He's been an excellent and a very athletic wicket keeper. But at the same time, if he's not bad, but if he's not having an impact on the game, I mean, I would much rather bring in Moeen Ali for the same. And now that you have an extra spinner, maybe sit Washington Sundar out, seeing as he was hit around a lot in the first game and didn't really contribute much in the second. So maybe give Parthiv Patel a chance. At that, if AB is unwilling to get wickets, if AB is sorry keep wickets, if AB is able to keep wickets, you can probably bring in someone like Gurkirat Singh who will fill in for that 2 or 3 down spot.
But yeah, I think that there's definitely some changes that need to be made, especially with respect to that Umesh Yadav, Dale Steyn, I want to say 10-year-old bowling phenomenon. Yeah.
True.
Next match though, because I think that this match brings a lot of pain to the hearts of at least me and Rajas. Delhi versus CSK, and I think a lot of what we were speaking about with the old match still applies. Delhi's top order, brilliant start. Shaw Dhawan getting off to an absolute flower, keeping them there till the 10th over, I believe. Uh, just waiting for Pant and Iyer to come in. I think that I think that CSK kept them down to a reasonable total. What did you think, Rishabh?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm sorry, Shaw and Dhawan started off brilliantly. I mean, they were 3 wickets down in the power play in the first game. So, I'm pretty sure they had a good team discussion about that, decided that they wanted to preserve wickets in the power play, and they did exactly that. My only gripe was they weren't able to maximize and make the best of the start that they got. I mean, if you look at Rishabh Pant and Shreyas, you credit to CSK's death bowling as well, though. It was far improved compared to the last game. They made sure that Delhi
Far
didn't get
improved
to the
compared to
total.
27 of 2.
I mean, anything could have been an improvement, honestly speaking. But I expected them to get, close to 190 at one point of time, maybe even threaten 200. They were around 95 odd after 10 overs. And when you've got Pant, Iyer, Hetmeyer back in the shed, you expect a team to get to 200 after such a brilliant start. So keeping them down to 175 was really good bowling from CSK. I just want to talk about Rishabh Pant's innings here. On paper, he's 37 from 25, which is pretty respectable. But if you actually watch the innings, it was a very, very ugly 37. There were a lot of, you know, huge swings and balls that he completely missed. The bat turning in almost every shot he played, and his footwork didn't seem secure. His foot were tilting almost every time he tried to hit the ball hard. He looked like he was going to get out every alternate ball. So while on paper his stats are good, he's very unnerving to watch because you really can't tell what he's going to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's had such an abysmal record playing for India and T20 internationals as well. So that's something that they should look at. While he definitely has a lot of talent, he can clear the fence with ease. He just technically doesn't look very good, and that sends a lot of nerves down any Delhi fans watching him bat. He doesn't look comfortable out there at all.
Fair.
And
And I think that
unfortunately, Stoinis didn't get enough time to recreate what he did in the last match. Maybe sending him ahead of Pant or Iyer could have been a good move considering the type of form he was in. But anyway, they won the match. So
okay, bold assertion coming up. Drop Dhawan promotes Stoinis to opening. Thoughts, Rajas?
he wants Stoinis
I
to be the new Narayan.
I don't know. I
He
mean,
has
I
opened in the Big Bash and he is an opener for the Melbourne Stars. So it's not entirely out of the box like Narayan, but yeah.
I wouldn't mind. Like, I don't see anything wrong with Stoinis opening, but at the same time, I think it's a little premature to drop Dhawan, is all. Like, I simply feel that he does have a little to bring to the game. And the one thing that is special about DC is their stock of Indian players, right? They have excellent Indian batsmen in their lineup. You have Pant, you have Shreyas Iyer, you have Dhawan. And I feel that they do have something to contribute. The one thing that I see Dhawan doing that I don't think Stoinis can do is, play the new ball. Like we see that in the IPL, like especially the swinging new ball is relatively better, but what we see is that a lot of teams are choosing to go with spinners in the power play, which I don't think Stoinis will be able to tackle as well as Dhawan does, because Dhawan's footwork, no matter what you say, is leaps and bounds ahead of the one that Stoinis has. So I wouldn't mind experimenting it, seeing as they're on a good run, but I wouldn't say it's going to be very easy dropping Dhawan.
Fair. And now coming to the
Right.
second
And
innings,
leaving that
and
aside,
oh yeah,
wait, if you do drop Dhawan, whose sunglasses are we going to talk about?
Oh yeah, dude, what was that?
yeah.
So,
Okay,
I
coming
mean,
back though,
he definitely brings a lot to the team.
second innings, and we're gonna keep talking about this throughout the tournament. But again, when you're chasing 175 and you have a team like CSK with the finishers that they have, and you're 34 for two after the power play, some questions are going to be asked, and I think they have to be asked again for Murli Vijay and Shane Watson. 5 of 10 or 10 of 15 and 14 of 16 with just a handful of boundaries is not going to cut it. And yeah, but I think the one thing that we noticed, and I think that's the talking point for this match, just this complete lack of intent. I don't think that CSK ever looked like they were going to chase 175 down. I don't even think that they were playing for net run rate, to be very fair with you. And hands down, excellent bowling, especially from Amit Mishra. Like you said, Rishabh, last time, that he would come in to replace Ashwin. But yeah, I just want to ask you guys this. Do you think that this is CSK being rusty? Do you think that this is CSK being the older team? Or do you think that this is something that they'll get over? We've seen it in the past and they'll make the playoffs for sure. Just wanted
I
to know your opinion.
I think it's simply the fact that they're unable to gauge their capability. They just do not back themselves to go out there, take the attack to the bowlers. And the only reason I can see for that is that their players have not been playing enough international cricket. Raidu has not been playing enough. Shane Watson hasn't been playing enough. Dhoni has not been playing enough. Kedar Jadhav has not been a regular in the side. I don't even know who Ruturaj Gaikwad is. The only player that like I have seen play like decent amount of international cricket, that too not regularly, is Jadeja, right? Who has also been out of the team since Kuldeep and Chahal took over. So like that is obviously a factor. I simply do not think they have the capability to do it anymore, or even if they do, they don't back themselves to do it. The other problem I have is, why is Dhoni coming so late down the order? When you know someone needs to stabilize the innings, or whether you want to hit sixes, whatever you want to do, Dhoni is your go-to man over Ruturaj Gaikwad. You do not send that youngster in at number 4 and expect him to do wonders for you. I mean, if you want pinch hitting, send Jadeja, right? Why would you send Ruturaj Gaikwad? That's the first thing. A lot of questions are going to be raised about Dhoni's finishing, which have been in the past couple of years. I think you guys will also cover it up better. But like, to say the least, you can't wait and finish it off till the end. The bowlers are no longer under the same kind of pressure from Dhoni as they were before. And lastly, CSK's biggest loss in the past 3 seasons is Kagiso Rabada, by far. The man has been an absolute phenomenon at Delhi. Spectacular bowling, very accurate, gives nothing away, blistering pace. Like, there's nothing really to say.
Mm,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think,
So
yeah.
building up on that, why do you want to leave a game to the last over when you know that Rabada is probably going to be bowling the last over? The odds are against you then. So you obviously want to finish it off as quickly as possible. And yeah, you spoke about how Jadeja is probably one of the most experienced people with regards to recent international experience. Despite that, I think his economy rate has been above 10 in all of the games that CSK have played so far. So what do we have to say about that?
That's surprising, honestly, because Jadeja has been a very, very economical bowler right throughout in every format for India.
Yeah. I just think that he's struggling to have the sort of guile that, say, someone like a Chahal has in these types of pitches. But yeah, I think we'll have to see. I still think that CSK will make the quarters, the playoffs for
Yeah.
that. Just though, on a final talking point, Delhi's bowling in terms of that pace battery of Nauthier and Rabada. That was not only was it express pace, it was accurate express pace. I think they took 5 wickets between them.
Yeah.
Rabada right at the top of the purple cap list. Yeah, just wanted your thoughts on that.
Rishabh?
It was a lot of fun to watch, especially. I mean, I think all of the bowlers, with the exception of Avesh Khan, did extremely well. I mean, all of them contributed exactly when the team needed it, and they all, executed their plans really well. And I think we can excuse Avesh Khan because he's relatively inexperienced, and all the other bowlers covered up for him perfectly fine.
I think that we can excuse Avesh Khan because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rajat, that he's an RCB export.
Yes, he's an RCB expert.
He's
That-
excused.
yeah. And like, come on, I mean, we know IPL has the quota where where you can play only a maximum of 4 foreigners, and you have to play one uncapped player. Avesh Khan is only there to fill in that uncapped quota. So I mean, it's all right if he goes for a few occasionally.
I don't believe
And
the uncapped rule is
yeah,
there anymore, though. But
Is it
yeah, I
not?
think that if you have to, I don't think so, but I think that you have to keep some inexperience to bowler simply because that's what your team or your squad
and
often
let's
gives
talk
you.
about Dwayne Bravo as well. How does he slot back into this Chennai side? He is probably one of their most influential players. He's been a consistent purple cap holder. He bowls the death overs for them. He chips in with the bat as well. And with Sam Curran's brilliant performances, where does Dwayne Bravo get into this side now?
Watto out, Bravo in, promote Duplessis probably, or Raidu, or for like whatever it's worth, Gaikwad. I mean, somebody needs to go to that top order slot at least to push Vijay beyond his strike rate of 75. But yeah, I think that Watto. I think that you can't drop Duplessis. You cannot drop Curran. You can probably experiment by dropping Hazelwood or NDD, but yeah, I don't think that they will. So it has to be Watto.
See, but while I agree that we can't drop any of the other players, like if you want to drop someone, it has to be Watson. I agree. What I don't agree with is dropping Watson for Bravo, right? Because they're nowhere near like having the same batting capability. And we've seen like on paper they have a pretty decent bowling lineup. It's not bad. What's been problematic is the ability of their batsmen to accelerate and change gears when they want. So I mean, I don't think Dwayne Bravo is consistent enough for a good batsman to replace Watto. So I think they need to bring in a batsman, and for all it's worth, okay, don't play four foreigners then if you don't have to. Bring in an Indian batsman, get someone who can actually open, a natural opener who can give you a decent start.
This is where we come
Yeah.
back to the Rena question.
Yeah,
And
like
I
I think
he's
think
that
the
Raidu's
missing piece,
absence,
right?
I think Raidu's absence also hit them really hard at this game.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Chennai fans will be looking forward to his return.
definitely. But yeah, overall, a really, really interesting week. I'm going to ask you guys for one highlight that you felt throughout the week, though, in terms of just matchups or events that happened. Rajas.
So for me, I think one of the I'm so sorry. I'll continue
No, no,
anyway.
let's go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
on, go on.
Yeah, so I think the Russell versus Bumrah matchup was extremely hyped. Bumrah being one of the best death bowlers in the world, and Russell being known for taking bowlers to the cleaners. And we expected a big fight over there, and it did not underperform. I mean, we got exactly what Mumbai fans got exactly what they wanted to see. Bumrah yorking Russell out, not giving him the chance to free his arms, not giving him a chance to take Mumbai to the cleaners. So that was one matchup I was personally looking really forward to, and I got exactly what I wanted.
Rajas.
For me, the highlight of the week was, I mean, I don't know, there's a couple to choose from. The two I'm torn between mainly are Chahal's emergence. First of all, his consistency with his line and length, absolutely beautiful, taking wickets at regular intervals. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I mean, I don't know how many people would have noticed this, but I feel that it's not a highlight per se, but I feel that Mayank Agarwal has been an absolutely fantastic player who has not been on the radar simply because he's been part of Karnataka teams which have produced great players such as KL Rahul and have had consistent performers throughout, and at Kings 11 where you have big names like KL Rahul and Chris Gale. I genuinely feel Mayank Agarwal, though picked for test matches, is actually as suited to the limited overs format. Seeing as he's only 27 and at the peak of his career, I really believe he should be given a chance to open the innings, given that Dhawan may not be a regular in the side and that Rohit Sharma probably will retire in a year or two. Give it a max of 2 years. So I feel for me the highlight was Mayank Agarwal and his ability to play off shots throughout the game.
Fair. Just to cap this off, I think that if not a highlight or probably one of the most tragic moments, I think, of what has been a very eventful year, definitely was Dean Jones passing. I think that it hit a lot of us personally as someone who's met him. And yeah, I think that that was something that it shook a lot of the cricketing fraternity. So I think that it was hard on a lot of players. Yeah, so I think that was it. And just in terms of matchups, though, definitely has to be Sanju Samson. I am definitely in favor of dropping Punt and bringing him into the side, at least in ODIs. If Rahul can't keep,
It's worth a
um,
shot if nothing else at least.
it's worth a shot. I think the dude's been really consistent, especially from I think the early RR time when Rahul Dravid used to mentor them. And I think that he's been a real special find, has the ability to, play the anchor innings as well as the explosive innings. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. But yeah, I think that the emergence of, as we say, the new Indian talent is going to be interesting to watch this IPL. So yeah,
True.
uh, and I think that about covers the matches. So
Okay, guys, for
Yes.
those of you watching, thank you so much. This is the first video we've made for the series. We'll probably be going ahead and making it. So, like, make sure you guys let us know what you think about it.